and welcome to Nutrition Made Easy. My name's Sam, and this week we're talking about high-protein diets. So high-protein diets, what do people really think about them? Some people say, yay, yay! Some people say, nay. So what should we think? To help us figure out about this topic, I've done some searching into the scientific literature, and I'm going to present to you my findings. So basically, for the purpose of this video, I've taken a lot of my findings from a review paper that was done by a gentleman named Kevin Tipton back in March 2011. So he did a scientific review, which means that he looked at all the current literature about high-protein diets, and he summarized it and put it into one paper and sort of added his own flair, which saved me a lot of work, so I really liked reading his paper, and he had a lot of good ideas. So what does he have to say about them? First, he starts by asking, how high protein is a high-protein diet? So to answer this question, we're going to have to do a little bit of math. So everybody pull out your fancy math glasses. And I actually don't wear glasses, and this is really hurting my head, but I'm going to deal with it because it makes me look really smart. And we're going to go over to my math whiteboard. So y'all thought I was joking, but I actually have a whiteboard. For some reason, it was out on my balcony, and that's just one of those things that I don't want to know the answer to. But what we are going to find out the answer to is how much protein is high protein. So we already know what the RDA for protein is, or the recommended amount. And that would be 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. Now, in this paper, they say that on average, the average North American is eating about 15 to 16% of their energy from protein each day. And let's assume that I eat about 2,000 calories per day. So what does that tell me? Well, this is where the math comes in. This calculator is broken. So what can we find out from this? Well, first of all, I'd like to thank my university degree for destroying any basic math skills that I had left in my brain. But more importantly, considering that I'm eating a 2,000 calorie diet at a weight of 120 pounds, according to the RDA, I should be eating about 43.6 grams of protein per day. But according to average estimates of 15%, I'm actually probably eating more like 75 grams of protein per day. So if you're talking about relative to the RDA, we're actually all already on high protein diets. Blows your mind. So let's just assume that when we're talking about high protein diets, we're talking about eating more than the average person would. So on that note, let's talk about our first topic, muscle hypertrophy, also known as building muscle, also known as toning the guns. So what is to be said about building muscle and protein intake? Well, in this paper it says, and I quote, muscle mass and strength can be gained on a wide range of protein intakes, from as little to the RDA up to very large amounts. There is very little support for the necessity of very high amounts. There are even studies showing that people who were having protein intakes less than the average were still able to increase their muscle mass just fine. So that's not to say that after a workout you shouldn't have a little snack consisting of some protein and carbohydrates. That's great for optimal muscle regrowth and rebuilding. It's just to say that you don't need to break out the whey protein supplements and gorge yourself on that. Whey protein supplement! Ah! Oh, it's just cornstarch, I swear. So what would be a good example of a post-workout snack? Well, you could have something like cheese and crackers, or a big hearty glass of milk. Loves me some milk. So what if one of your health goals involves weight loss? Well, there are actually quite a number of studies saying that high-protein diets may very well be good for weight loss. They cite a number of advantages. Number one, there are some studies showing that there is less loss of lean mass, i.e. muscle, during a high-protein diet versus, say, a low-fat diet or some other fat diet. Number two, it helps increase fat oxidation, or the breakdown of fat, more than other nutrients. There are also some studies showing that high-protein diets help reduce the amount of weight gain that sometimes can follow an initial period of weight loss. And there also are some studies showing that high-protein diets help increase your feeling of satiety, or that feeling of fullness that you have after you eat a meal. So what about any potential problems with high-protein diets? So there were two sort of ideas floating around about the problems that could be associated. One was its effect on kidney function, and that it might be detrimental or bad for that. The other was bone loss. Some studies were saying high-protein diets would increase your rate of bone loss, which would likely increase your risk for things like osteoporosis and fractures. So as for kidney function, there have been some studies showing that if you are generally a healthy individual who's never had a history of kidney function problems, you should be okay with a moderately high protein diet. If you have had previous kidney problems, you may want to avoid these diets, or at least talk to your physician or a dietitian before partaking in something like this. And as for bone loss, there have been conflicting reports. Some studies even showing that increased protein intake will lead to improved bone health. So this review paper by Kevin Tipton states that as long as you're eating protein in the food form and not taking a whole bunch of supplements, and you're getting a well-balanced diet with lots of fruits and vegetables, you should be okay. So after all is said and done, and all the studies have been looked at, what does this review paper say about high-protein diets? And once again, I quote, "This review is in no way intended to advocate high-protein diets for athletes and exercisers. Yet, the risks of high-protein intake seem to be minimal for otherwise healthy athletes." So before you go out and start buying a whole bunch of protein sources ready to get on your high protein diet, there's a few things you should probably think about. So number one, what kind of protein are you eating? It seems to me like a lot of people would hear about a high protein diet and start wanting to eat a bunch of meat or eggs or dairy, namely animal products. Meat, 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 meat. I'm out of here. If you adopt a diet that's very high in these animal products, such as meat, you'll be having a diet that's very high also in saturated fats, which I've shown you in a previous video is not overly beneficial for your health. And there's a second problem here. If you take the high protein diet to extremes, you may be cutting out other nutrients that you need. The last thing that you should really think about, and think about it hard, is this a type of diet that I can maintain? So when I use the word diet, I don't mean something short term, something that you do for 6 months to help you lose weight and then you give up on it. A diet is really more of a lifestyle. If you're looking to be very healthy, you're going to have to adopt this diet, if you will, for your entire life. So is a high protein diet something that you can maintain? So the message here is weigh the good against the bad and make the choice that's right for you. So that's it for me. Make sure that you check out my references, stay informed, and before making any big lifestyle changes, talk to a doctor or a dietitian or a health professional and get as many opinions as you can. So for me and the math whiteboard, thanks for watching. It's in the news today, it's high protein craze. Building muscle, you don't need to eat protein for days. As a weight loss aid, it's probably safe for you. Just weigh the risks and benefits before you go on to do high protein diet. Before you do high protein diet. And now for no reason, I'm gonna sing shallow.